Hi, in this video, we're going to take a look at tracing a packet between devices on different VLANs, different IP networks. So first of all, let's take a look at switch virtual interfaces. This can be for layer 2 or layer 3 switch. So here I configured an interface VLAN 10 IP address, VLAN 20 IP address. If I do show interface VLAN 10, show interface VLAN 20, notice that they are automatically up and up. Excuse me, the reason for that is as long as this switch has one active interface on that VLAN, either access VLAN or a trunk port that includes that VLAN, then the VLAN will be up and up. Also, just to mention that if it did not have a access or trunk link on that was active on that VLAN, it'd be like a SVI, an IP address to nowhere, and be unreachable. And this when we do show interface VLAN 10, it would show as down. The other thing I want to mention, another key point, is the MAC address table. Switch virtual interfaces, when you configure switch virtual interfaces, they have MAC addresses. Those MAC addresses are actually in the switch's MAC address table. It's shown as an internal port. Instead of a physical port like gigabit 101, it shows as an internal port like VLAN 10 or VLAN 20, and its MAC address and its VLAN that it's associated with. Okay. This is so the switch knows when it receives an Ethernet frame for that one of these MAC addresses, it knows, hey, I'm the target host for that frame. So instead of just acting as an Ethernet switch, I'm also the target, meaning somebody's trying to contact me. Another device is maybe trying to SSH into me or ping my interface or something. And in that case, I have to act as a host. We'll see that in a moment. So let's take a look here. PC0 is going to send a packet to PC4. PC0 says, I know my IP address, and I look at your IP address. We're not on the same network. So this means that the destination MAC address needs to be that associated with my default gateway. Okay, so I know my default gateway IP address is 10.10.1.1. I know that IP address. What's the MAC address? I look in my ARP table. Hey, it's not there. That means I have to put this packet on hold, and I need to send out an ARP request to see who is 10.10.1.1 or whoever it is. Send me your MAC address. I'll send that out as a broadcast. This switch receives the broadcast. It says, hey, I just received an Ethernet broadcast that came in on a port associated with VLAN 10. So I'm going to send that only out ports associated with VLAN 10. That could be an access port on VLAN 10 or a trunk port that includes VLAN 10. So I'll send it out that trunk link there, tagged, untagged. Hey, this switch receives it, does the same thing. I'll only send it out VLAN 10 ports. Hey, I have an access port on VLAN 10, so I'll send it out that port. Of course, access ports are not tagged. This switch says, hey, I also have another port that's a trunk port, it includes VLAN 10, so I'll send it out that port, tagged and untagged. All right, so this switch here receives it, distribution 1 switch. So first of all, it receives it. Okay, it was tagged and it was untagged, so it recognized it came in on a VLAN 10 port. It says, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I just learned that source MAC address ending in 83B0, here's the entire MAC address, came in on a VLAN 10 port on my gig 101 associated with VLAN 10. Okay, so I add that to my MAC address table. Next thing he says, I'm an Ethernet switch, so let me do what an Ethernet switch does. I look at the destination MAC address. Okay, let me see if that's in my MAC. It's a broadcast, so I'm going to send that out all ports. Now, it's a broadcast, so I'm not going to send it out the port that it came in on, the ingress port. But I'll send it out this port because, well, it's a trunk link and it belongs to VLAN 10, a broadcast. Okay, came in on a VLAN 10 port. I'm going to send it out all VLAN 10 ports. Okay, So again, gets tagged and untagged. This switch will do the same thing, came in on a VLAN 10 port, tagged as VLAN 10, and so we'll send it out all ports belonging to VLAN 10, okay? Tagged and untagged, okay? So looks like we don't send it out any of these ports because these are all VLAN 20, VLAN 121, VLAN 20, nope. But let's take a look at something here. It's an ARP request, right? So this ARP request says, okay, this is a broadcast. I need all devices that are looking at this. So any device that's on this network, if you are 10.10.11, please respond. I need your MAC address. So this device goes, nope, that's not me. Do we have any other devices that have an IP address on VLAN 10 or on that network? Yes, we do, right up here. Hey, our layer 3 switch. It also acts as a router, a device with an IP address. It says, hey, you're actually looking for me. So I did my job as an Ethernet switch, but now I have to switch hats, change hats, and now I'm acting as an end device, a router, actually, not an end, a router, okay? So 10.10.11, that's me. So since that's my IP address, I need to send back an ARP reply since you were looking for me. I'm going to send it from my MAC address to your MAC address. Okay, so I'm going to send it out this interface here. I know to send it out just gig 101. Okay, first of all, my source MAC address is in the MAC address table. But as far as that destination MAC address, okay, that's also in my MAC address table. I had learned your MAC address when you sent the ARP request. So my switch is acting as a switch here. My MAC address table knows, hey, to send this back to you directly, I just need to send out my gig 101 port. So it goes out just this port here. Okay, so I'm done with it. I'm sending it out as a switch now from me, but it went through my switch, out this just gig 101, and it got tagged, and then it gets untagged by access 1-1. Access 1-1 says, oh, 83B0, I know where you are. These are abbreviated, of course. I'm just going to send it out that port there. Now, PC0 receives it, says, oh, here's that ARP reply I've been waiting for. Let me add that MAC address to my ARP table. Okay, the MAC address associated with that IP address. I knew the IP address. Now I know the MAC address. Now I can take that MAC address and use that as destination MAC address because, hey, my local router, I need to send you a packet to do your job as a router. Okay, so this Ethernet frame gets sent out. Let's just do the whole thing from PC0 to access 1. Access 1 forwards the Ethernet frame out this port here. It says destination MAC address. I know it goes out this interface here. My MAC address table tells me that. Tag, untagged. Okay. Yep. So now switch distribution 1 receives it. Let's take a look at this again. Okay. It gets sent out. Distribution 1 receives it, looks at the destination MAC address. This is key here. 5101, or here's the complete MAC address. Says, hey, this is me. It's my internal SVI VLAN 10. So this is something I need to deal with. So let me go ahead and unencapsulate it, just like any device would that has an Ethernet frame that's destined for that device. Now it goes, okay, let me see. What is this packet? Oh, I see the destination IP address. This isn't me, but I'm a router. So as a router, I'm going to route this. Okay, and let's see, where does this go? Well, let's take a look here. My directly connected interface, 10.21.0/24 tells me I can reach this device out one of my VLAN 20 ports. Now that could be any port That's an access port on VLAN 20, or in this case, I have two trunk links that belong to VLAN 20. So you're out there someplace via one of my trunk links, since I don't have any access links for VLAN 20. Okay, so that means I need to be able to send from me to you this packet, from me to you. Okay, so all right, let's do this. Okay, it's going to go from me to you. I know my MAC address, but here's the little bit of a problem here. I need to know your MAC address. Not really a problem. I'll just look in my ARP cache, my ARP table. I know your IP address, 1021.102. It's just like any two devices communicating now, any two PCs communicating, just like, we've seen in previous videos. In this case, I'm put on my hat belonging to the same network as you. Okay, I looked in my ARP table. I know your IP address. I don't know your MAC address. So let's just communicate at like two devices on the same IP network. So what am I going to do? Well, I got to put this on hold because I don't know your MAC address. So I'm going to send out an ARP request like any other two devices would do that are on the same IP network. I know your IP address. I don't know your MAC address. So I'm going to send it from me, and I got to send it as a broadcast. I got to bother everybody on my network. So what I'm going to do, since this is a broadcast, I'm going to send this out all ports. Now, I'm sending this out all ports, and this is my rule as an Ethernet switch. As it goes through my Ethernet switch, I'm sending this out any ports that belong to VLAN 20 or trunk links that belong to VLAN 20 or include VLAN 20, I should say. So it's going out both these ports here. Okay, same thing here. These switches receive it, goes out both ports, or goes out their trunk links tagged as VLAN 20. Okay, now let's see where else it goes. Now, by the way, all of these here, these switches tag it, and all the receiving switches untag it. We've seen that before. Okay, what other ports does it go out of? Well, it'll go out these ports here. These switches will send it out their access ports belonging to VLAN 20. So we can see just the devices on VLAN 20 are going to receive this, not the devices on VLAN 10. Okay, again, VLAN segment broadcast domains. Okay, these two devices look at MAC address 1021.102. Nope, not me. Nope, not me. Okay, but this device goes, hey, this is me. So I'm the one that needs to send back an ARP reply. So let me go ahead and send back that ARP reply. Okay, you knew my IP address. Here's my MAC address, sending it from my MAC address to your MAC address. Goes into VLAN 20 port. This switch says, yes, I know where this destination MAC address is. Send it out this port here, tagged, and then the distribution one will untag it. Okay, here we're back here, 5102. 5102. Well, first of all, it came from AC07, so this switch will say, hey, I just learned, this is this switch right here. It says, I just learned that on my gig 102 port, hey, I just learned that AC07, your MAC address. Okay. And I've associated that with VLAN 20, and I learned it on my gig 102 port. Great. Now, what about that destination MAC address? 5102. Oh, 5102, the MAC address table says, I don't need to forward this. This is for me internally. Okay, this is for my SVI on VLAN 20. So I don't need to forward this. This is for me. And by the way, it would only forward it if it was a broadcast or an unknown unicast, right? Or if it belonged somewhere else. All right, but let's continue. Well, let me just mention this because I don't want to confuse anybody. When it sees 5102 here, and I said that, it says, yes, this is for me internally, so I don't need to do anything else with it. Okay, if it was some other MAC address, if it was a broadcast, it would send it out all ports belonging to VLAN 20. If it was another MAC address and it wasn't its own MAC address and it wasn't in its table, it would treat it like a broadcast, send it out all ports that belong to VLAN 20, unknown unicast. Okay, that's just a side note. Again, let's get back on track here, Rick. 5102, that is for me. Okay, so I'm going to unencapsulate the frame. I see it's an ARP reply. Yes, I've been waiting for you. 10.20.102. I knew your IP address. Now I know your MAC address. Let me add that to my ARP table. All right. Now, finally, I've got that destination MAC address because I have a packet I need to forward to you as my job as a router. So I'm going to send that out. Let's see here. It's going out from me to AC07. Where's AC07? I'll give it to my switch here. My switch says, oh, that's out gigabit 102. That's my MAC address there. Just showing you that in the MAC address table. There we go. Destination MAC address, AC07. Okay, yes, that's out just my gigabit 102 port. I'll send it out that port there. Tagged, untagged. Yes, we've done that many times. This switch receives it, says, oh, AC87. I'll send that just out my Fast Ethernet 05 port because you're in my MAC address table, and this device receives the packet. A lot going on there. Okay, but you know all the individual parts. Okay, we're just kind of putting what hat am I wearing, and especially here. Am I Ethernet switch? Am I the end device? Am I the target of an ARP request? Excuse me, or am I a router? What hat am I wearing? Okay, and it's just what is the problem being solved, and then what do I need to be? Okay, so that gets a little, I've done a video on how a layer 3 switch is like a home router. So you can kind of think of it like that, if that helps. Okay, if it doesn't, don't worry about it. But there's one more thing I want to share with you, and then this video will be done. A key point here. The IP address of a switch, a layer 2 or layer 3 switch, the switch virtual interface, is reachable by any device as long as there are common links, access ports with that VLAN or a trunk link that includes that VLAN. What do I mean by this? The reason why this IP address can reach this IP address on the same network, this is a switch virtual interface. The reason why this device's IP address can reach this SVI on the same network is this port on this switch here is VLAN 10. This trunk link on both ends is VLAN 10 because the SVI is VLAN 10. Because this is VLAN 10, all of these must be VLAN 10 ports. Same thing here. The reason why this IP address can reach this IP address, this is a SVI VLAN 20. Okay, so VLAN 20 here, that means this port here and this port here on the trunk, okay, must include VLAN 20. And this port here is an access port VLAN 20. So just, again, let me just restate that. IP address, VLAN 10. So this must be this is a VLAN 10 access port. This trunk link, it includes VLAN 10 on both ends, VLAN 10. From VLAN IP address to IP address, coming from VLAN 20. So the trunk link needs to include VLAN 20, and then this switch here has an access port on VLAN 20. Okay, so that's the consistency that I'm speaking of. I know there's a lot going on here. I know there's a lot of different parts. I hope this helped begin to bring some clarity. The more you work with this, the more you see it, it'll become more second nature, and you'll see all the different hats and different components. But all those basic protocols you've been learning don't change. Okay, whether it's, Ethernet frames, MAC address tables, ARP, routing, it all is exactly the same, only different. Okay, hope that helped. Have a great day.